to have you with us. Great to hear your voice. And I see a couple of people I don't recognize, although you sort of do. Karen and Alexis, you look familiar, but that doesn't mean anything for me. So Katie, I kind of think maybe they're guests of yours.
No, actually, I work with Wes on the center team, and so does Alexis. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's the familiar connection.
Yeah. And Wes and I work with the legislators at this time of year for the governor's prayer breakfast.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder. And
will there be a governor's prayer breakfast, and when is that scheduled for, Karen?
Yes, we just set the date. It's going to be March 11th at 7 a.m. and it will be virtual. And that's about what we know so far. It's been a rough start for the legislators trying to figure out everything on Zoom. So we're working on it.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. Speaking of which, what's going on with the National Prayer Breakfast?
That also is going to be virtual, and there's a date in February. Wes, do you have that handy?
February 4th. Isn't it, Wes?
Yeah, it's generally the first Thursday
it's the 4th, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it'll just be members of Congress and the president and some cabinet people and that sort of thing. So it'll be at the Capitol. So with all that's going on.
Actually, that shifted, Wes. We got a message that it's going to be virtual now, that they're not going to have an in-person one.
Okay.
I think that was sent out. Things are changing quickly.
Lots of virtual things. And with all that's gone on nationally, probably that may be a good thing. Anyway, we'll get word to you as we get into those details too.
Okay. So it sounds like it won't be public in the sense like it has been public.
Well, we don't know that yet. We originally they were trying to do that when it was going to be at the Capitol. They were trying to make sure that we could see it broadly, globally. But I don't know that we know that yet for sure.
Okay. All right. So bottom line, continued prayers for the National Prayer Breakfast. And the other day, I guess it was Thursday or Friday, I stumbled on Dr. Barry Black's keynote address at the National Prayer Breakfast. I think it was 2017, Wes, and which got me curious about him. And I thought, one of these days we may just want to have a review of his talk at the National Prayer Breakfast a couple of years ago, because it was a fabulous talk. And I thought, and Grant, since I see you and your bride, Grant, why don't you introduce your bride to us? We haven't met her officially.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Good morning, everyone. This is Christy.
Hi.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, Dan. Oh, nice to meet you. Oh, I see Garrick. Hi.
So I thought, wouldn't it be wild if we can get Dr. Barry Black, the chaplain of the United States Senate, on with us some Thursday morning. This is probably more than a long shot, but you might as well dream big. So I asked Grant if he would sort of track that down. And so Grant, I just read your email here about 15 minutes ago. So thanks for taking that on, at least checking to see if we might somehow get him to join us some Thursday morning. So with that, let's see, I'm looking for Binkt. Any other guests that I don't see that we should recognize? Don't see any. Binkt, why don't you give us a reading and then introduce Katie for us.
All right, good morning. I do have a scripture today, and then I'll give Katie a real short introduction. Glad to see Randy and Doug back after a little bit. You guys kicked off a lot of this here a year ago when Katie spoke to us. And Christopher, the other Chris from Great White North. Good to see you too. But Dan Brannon was running the show a month ago. He had a whole theme You remember this, Dan? It says it takes a whole world to understand the whole Christ.
Yeah.
And you had a quote from a book that said, if I could see, let alone describe all the ways God makes his glory appear glorious to different people in different cultures, I would be God. And how the whole tribe of Papua New Guinea was saved by understanding the reality of Christ when they understood his genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an amazing time about exactly a year ago, and Dan brought people from all over the world. And here we are. You know, you guys have been all over the world and represent all kinds of places and experiences. Today, right before I introduce Katie, I'll share with you my morning reading was, you can find it, it was funny because it's either Hebrews 3:7 or Psalm 95, which Paul quotes like the entire thing. I'll just give you a few lines though. It says, and Paul says the Holy Spirit says this, which probably is true about all the Psalms. Oh, that today you would hear his voice. Harden not your hearts, as at the rebellion, the time of testing in the desert, where your ancestors tested and tried me, even though they saw my works. And then he ends the whole passage by saying, we have become partners with Christ, if only we hold the beginning of the reality firm until the end. So here we are holding firm with what we've learned, taught, some of us experienced directly. And so today I just want to welcome Kristen Lee. A very short introduction for Katie, who's been coming throughout the year. And as she reminded me, spoke to us a year ago. And yet there's always more story to tell. Even a guy a few weeks ago, like Jeff Kemp, who's been walking with the Lord for decades, told a whole story of what's been happening in his life for the last 9-10 months. And probably all of us could do that. So I asked Katie to share some more, and maybe specifically, she said God's done a lot of stuff in her life just with her anchor ministry. And so she's going to share some of her story and God in her story, and how when you don't have a hard heart, amazing things can happen. And a lot of folks here. Happy to see all you guys. Now we're up to 24. So we'll have time at the end for a lot of lively discussion too. But Katie, author of The Anchored and host of the Anchor Ministries. And also, since she came, we've been having a number of wonderful women coming after her, but she was the first, and she was also the last live speaker. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Bengt, for that introduction. Yes, I'll have to say a little shocked I was asked to share again, since it was March 12th. Last year, I was the last speaker at the WAC, and then everything shut down. So I have to say, though, as I look back over the year, a lot has happened, especially in the Anchor. So, but I wanted to share, first of all, just a little bit about my story and how the Anchor really came to be. So just quickly, some of you already know my story. I've been married to my husband, Ron Robertson, 34 years. We live in Gig Harbor, Washington, and we have 3 kids. Our oldest, Karina, she would be 30. She passed away, I can't believe it's going 11 years, April 26, 2010. And we have our daughter, Annika, and she's married to Gray Seegers, and they live in North Carolina, Davidson. He's a pastor, Presbyterian pastor, college and missions there in Davidson. And they have 2 darling little girls. So we're grandparents now. And my son, Eric, is 25, and he works at BlackRock. So he's been there, downtown Seattle. Well, now, not now, he lives over by Green Lake. So that's our family. And now I don't usually share this, but I thought as I looked back on where the Anchor really started as this ministry, it's probably kind of who I am from the very beginning. So quickly, in a nutshell, I am the youngest of 5 by 5 minutes. I'm an identical twin, and we grew up in North Seattle, and my parents We lived in the same house. My parents were there 65 years in Wedgwood. So just, you get the idea. And I grew up going to University Lutheran Church, which I'm sure a lot of you know. And it was at that church, my older sister, my second oldest sister, became the youth group leader because she wanted my twin and I to hear about Jesus. And I have to share that because it's the anchoring moment of my life. When I was 12 years old, my sister took us to a concert at Lincoln High School, and we heard Wayne Taylor. Does anybody recognize that name? Wayne Taylor was a pastor / musician. He played his guitar for us. And I sat in the front row. And as a twin, I have to say this side note, because this is a huge, huge moment. Because I'm the youngest twin, I'm like the baby sister. I would do everything my sister did. And this one particular time in my life, I sat in the front row and she was behind me. So I just got to set the stage when Wayne Taylor shared about the most amazing news I've ever heard, that you can have a personal relationship with Jesus as your best friend, forgiven and all. I'm like, how come someone has never told me this news before? When it was time to, at the end, there was a little altar call. I jumped out of my seat, and I was really shy, very, very shy back in those days. I didn't even look to see what my sister was doing. Jumped out of the chair, got to the front, and I was given a Bible, my first Bible. And I have to say, since I was 12, that is 45 years ago, I have held on to my Bible and to Jesus Christ, and I have not stopped. I never really have stopped. I have held on so tight, and I felt him just call me that day. And so I share that because it's the hugest anchoring moment. It changed my whole life and what I do. So from there, I went to Nathan Hale High School, then went to the University of Washington. And it was during those college years are huge, huge in my faith journey. I have my teaching degree from the UW, an elementary school teacher. But it was during those years, I worked at a Salvation Army camp for 2 summers. I was a young life leader at Roosevelt High School. And I was an intern, a children's intern at University Presbyterian Church for 2 years. And that is where I was so strengthened. I was under Steve Hayner and Denny Ryberg. And I got hold of this book. Steve Hayner gave it to us. It was called Dream Big, the story of Henrietta Mears. Does anyone nod your head if you've heard of Henrietta Mears? Has anyone ever heard of her? She was my inspiration and mentor, even though she's, passed on way long time ago. I wanted to be Henrietta Mears. And she is the one that was influential in Billy Graham's life, and Jim Rayburn, the founder of Young Life, Bill Bright, the founder of Campus Crusade, Richard Halverson. If you've never read her story, it's inspiring. And her motto was to know Christ and to make him known. And from those college years, I just developed this passion that was just burning. I could not get enough. I wanted to make Christ known and know him. And so that's I have to share that because that's really where it began. And so those young life leader years for me, I was at the Camp Malibu up in Canada. And that's where I laid eyes on my husband. And he was on Young Life staff. And the long story short, we met on the Malibu Princess, and we were married in 1987. And then we lived in Snohomish. He was on Young Life staff, then went to development for Young Life, then started his own business. But we then moved to Gig Harbor, where I got this whole nautical theme, this anchoring theme. Our favorite thing to do was boating. My husband and I started as sailors. And then we used to make fun of powerboaters. Like, seriously, you're not going, we call it the dark side. But we would go, our favorite family thing to do was to go to the Seattle Boat Show. I mean, our kids, we just would live for the January boat show. And so then we'd go to the boat show, dream up chartering a boat. And we love to go to Roach Harbor, Princess Louisa Inlet. Those are just my best family memories. And so it was 2005. Our dreams came true. We bought our first boat. It was a Sunship 68, and it was named the Epiphany. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen it out there. It's still, we sold it, we kept the name, it's out there still. But that boat, we had it for 10 years. It was the best memories ever. but that is a significant year. We bought it 2005 of February. And then that June, on June 21st, the longest day of the year, our daughter Karina was diagnosed with AML leukemia on the last day of 8th grade, completely out of the blue. It was the biggest storm I could ever say. And I don't, it's good to look back in time, because I don't always, share this story, but I haven't shared it for a while. But my first thought was, we're going to drown. I had the nautical water theme. We're going to drown. How am I going to live? I cannot imagine a picture without our daughter. I mean, if most of you are parents, you can't even, your mind can't go there. So that just set the stage. That June 21st, biggest, one of the biggest storms. And so that first night.
Avery, no, I told her she's ready. Mom, you did not say anything. You said I would take her.
Can you hear me? So the first, I'm just going to share a couple things from her, this journey, because they're really, really amazing moments for me, and I think can speak to all of us. But that first night in the hospital, my daughter, she had brought her Bible and her devotional. She had it all set on her little tray, and I'm sitting on the couch next to her, scared to death. She just is so confident. She says, Mom, if the worst happens, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I'll be with Grammy Jean, my mom who'd already passed away, and I'll be with Jesus. So like that first night, she was so confident in her faith. And I, I was an at-home mom for so many years, and I truly poured my life into her. I taught her everything I know about Jesus. And here she was, it was turning, she had taken it for her own, and she was sharing with me. She actually started, I was so in shock that first night. She helped me grab onto Jesus that first night. So we just in it together. She read me this verse from her devotional that said, it was from Psalm 66. It said, surely I will hear your prayer. I will not withhold my love from you. And that was the theme. That's like the theme of life, really, that nothing can separate us from God's love, nothing. And that is what I have seen throughout the whole journey of my daughter's illness and the aftermath. He just keeps loving on us in special ways that he does. So that was that first time she got sick. And then she had 4 rounds of chemotherapy. She got very sick, almost died, never got the 5th round, which she was supposed to have to, hopefully make it and be cured, or, make it through. So then we went a whole year, and my mother gut feeling was she never had the 5th round. I bet, this cancer could come back. And sure enough, it did. Exactly a year later, the leukemia came back. And then I called it the enemy attack on cancer, because cancer is just the cruelest enemy. We had to have a stem cell bone marrow transplant. And so it was that time our family was told we needed to move to Seattle and live there for 100 days. And we needed to live 15 minutes from the Children's Hospital and 15 minutes from Fred Hutch. And I was once again in shock, thinking, how am I going to do this again? This is so hard. And so it was just one of those crazy, crazy things. I feel like this is how God provides and loves on us, especially in the details of your life. But we just happened to know through Young Life and a development connection, the people who owned Hunts Point in Bellevue, just for one year, these friends of ours owned it and scraped the house and had a dock on the Stan Sears hydroplane. There was a hydroplane garage there. I mean, does anybody know what I'm talking about here? So this was a very big moment, because to me, it was boat language for my husband and I. We could bring our boat and live on Hunts Point and be 15 minutes exactly. Like if you timed it both locations, exactly 15 minutes. And we just could not believe it. And we knew another connection that lengthened the dock in the middle of the night to fit our boat on Lake Washington. It was one of those miraculous things for us. We knew that God was loving on us, even in the crazy, hard journey we were on. So we had this transplant. My daughter, Annika, was a perfect match. And that is really not common, to have a sibling match That is the best if you can have somebody in your family. And it turned out when my husband and I were tested for our bone marrow, our daughters, Karina and Annika, had exactly the same genes and chromosomes from my husband and I, and they matched perfect. And then our son was completely opposite. And our daughters used to joke with him, saying he was adopted. So just to say this, the girls were so alike. It was, to me, a miracle. So our daughter Annika gave the stem cells, which is a big deal for a 13-year-old. And if any of you, some of you might know what a transplant entails, but I thought it's a miracle. She gave these stem cells, they put them in like a Ziploc bag, put them in a little cooler, put them in a van, took them over to Fred Hutch, and in 2 hours in an IV, my daughter Karina had a brand new life. And to me, it was a miracle because we had no side effects. We got the gold star and it was smooth sailing. And I could not believe you could get a whole new life from a transplant like that. So the one thing I held on to during that time was the verse from Proverbs 19, verse 21. It says that a man plans his ways, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. And I know all of us, we have you have your plans in your heart. My plans were and I'm a planner, and I love it, all my ducks in a row. I planned my cute little family growing up, living on the same street, having the grandkids run over and play with me. I just got to say, the plan has not been my plan. God's purpose prevails. And I have done a word search on the word purpose. Our purpose is to hold on to him, the anchor. And that is what I've definitely gotten out of my whole life journey, is holding on to him is what I need to do. And that my plans, he's got a bigger plan involved. So that was our second time she got sick. Then the third time she got 3 perfect years. We thought she's been healed, no more cancer. But then she was a SPU student for 1 quarter. And then it was January 22nd, 2010, another awful, one of the biggest storms of my life, where out of the blue, Karina was diagnosed again. And this time it was so bad. And she only lived for 3 months. So then she passed away April 26th. And the thing that really was one of those standout moments during that last time was our really dear friend, Dr. Rob Lane. Does anyone know that name, Rob Lane? He was so kind. He was a retired oncology doctor. He'd come be with us every day for the last 2 weeks of our daughter's life when she was in the ICU. And one day it was so crazy. He took me in the corridor of the ICU in this dark corner. And he said, "Katie, is Jesus enough? Is Jesus enough?" And it was like, that's a question that's kind of in the back of my mind a lot. Is Jesus enough? At first, those were fighting words. I'm like, what do you mean? Does that mean Karina's not going to make it? And what do you mean by, is Jesus enough? And my ending of my story, Karina is not here. She's home with Jesus. But those words really just, linger with me. And as I held on, I've seen Jesus is enough. He was for my daughter, myself, and our family. And that is what we have that gives us the strength for today and for eternity. But those words were huge. And I want to watch my time here because I have too many stories sometimes. So after that time in our life, when Karina passed away, so that was, I can't describe, it's a journey. It's really hard. But it was that a year after, this is a really crucial moment for me. A year after, my husband and we volunteered to be the college summer staff coordinators at the Young Life Camp Malibu. And I look back on it now and think that might have been too soon to do something like that. But it was the best thing our family could ever do, was to go serve in our grief, like to just do something for others. But it was during that time, we were in charge of 40 college kids. And most of them were 19 and 20 years old. And that's the age that our daughter was when she passed away. And so here we were at Malibu, and every girl with brown hair that, you know, the 1920, I cannot, any of you as parents, you'll know, any girl that looked like her, I just was a mess. I was just distraught, so grief stricken. Like, what were we thinking? How can we be at Malibu? This is the stupidest idea. And I was on a rock up there at Malibu, and I literally cried out to God, Lord, would you just show me you're here? I don't think I can live. I mean, like, how am I going to make this life? I miss my daughter so much. And so that is the craziest thing happened. And this is part of life. We'll never understand how God doesn't answer a lot of prayers, but sometimes he answers them the next day. This was one of those. He answered the next day. And I think he knew I needed it, because I don't know what I do without it. But the very next day, my daughter Annika ran to find me and said, Mom, Karina's in the bathroom. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so she grabbed me and took me up onto the main street of the camp. And if you've been there, you'll know it's on that main street. It's the little bathroom by the nurse or whatever. She pulled me in there, and there's this photo that's a poster sized, you know, framed picture of two girls walking. Actually, I have a little picture here. Don't know if you can see. There's two girls walking out to the outer dock. There's this girl here in the pink shorts and a little short ponytail. Annika looks at this, or she points to it, and she goes, Mom, that is Karina. And I go, no, I'm very skeptical. No, that's not her. Mom, those are her elbows. Those are her shorts. That's her ponytail. And so I show you this because this is to me, it's a wonder of God, honestly, because when you're in a heart like mine, missing my child, this is too weird. This is one of those crazy stories. And so I looked at it and I'm like, I think you're right. This photo was a picture of our daughter, Karina. She'd been a camper after her transplant. She got to go. Malibu is one of our favorite family places. And so, but out of that, we found out the backstory is that the camp manager said, well, we've always wondered who those girls are. And so we, said, well, that's our daughter, Karina. And he goes, well, that's funny. The photographer we hired is from Gig Harbor. Her name's Suzanne Lane. This is Rob Lane's wife. So this is a weird story to try to put together, but our oncology doctor friend, Rob Lane, who asked me, is Jesus enough? His wife is the one that took this photo, and she took thousands of photos at Malibu, and they only chose one to be framed. And it was the picture of our daughter. And Suzanne Lane described to me, she hid in the bushes. I mean, you can tell this is along the pathway. And she didn't just take any picture. She said she waited till it just looked right. And if you ever go to Malibu, there's 350 kids that come off a boat every week. That she chose my daughter. She didn't know my daughter then at all. She'd never met her. This was 3 years before my daughter died. This picture was taken. That it's just one of those stories. To me, God answered me in my heartache, and that picture is on that wall, which now it's in the ice cream shop. If you ever go to Malibu, you got to check it out. But that photo, I could not get enough. I'm like, everybody has to know Jesus is real. Everyone needs to know he's not just a made up thing. He's for real. And that, everyone, is how I came home from that experience and thought, I've got to start something for women. Actually, I'm all about the guys too, but I wanted to gather women together, and so they could hear about, that Jesus is real. And I've got a Young Life background so big, and I've been in the MOPS thing, if some of you know what that is, and Bible Study Fellowship. I thought we need something for women that is non-threatening, that you could bring a friend to, and you could have them come and not be the church setting, and that they could hear about Jesus. So I gathered some friends in my living room, and we started to pray about starting something. And that is when we all decided, yep, we're doing it. And then we thought, well, what are we going to call it? And that's when we live on the water in Gig Harbor. I have a pillow on my chair. It has an anchor on it. And as a joke, I said, hey, how about we call it the Anchor? And then we're like, no, no, no. But then I looked at it and it's got a cross in the anchor. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's an anchor verse. I didn't even know there was one. So I looked up in my concordance, didn't even Google it, on my Bible there that day. And there was the perfect verse, Hebrews 6:19. We have this hope, Jesus as an anchor for the soul. And I thought, man, that just sums up the whole gospel message. It's forever, for today and for eternity. Who doesn't want to have that? So this is where it started in our harbor. I just started it to be in one place, Gig Harbor, and it started in a net shed. I have a picture of a net shed because sometimes you don't know what it is. It started here. It started in our harbor, and I thought the analogy was so cool. A net shed is for fishermen to come off the water and get kind of re-equip, get some rest, get their stuff and gear to go back out on the stormy seas of life. And I had this vision for women to get off the stormy seas of motherhood and careers and craziness of marriages or whatever you're going through, and get away to this kind of net shed harbor, like Gig Harbor, the harbor, safe harbor feel. And that is where it started, in that little net shed. And then it's been 9 years. And so then it was crazy. It started to a trickle effect. Then all those connections I'd made during the transplant, they wanted to start it in Bellevue. So we started one in Bellevue, then like Snohomish and Lake Stevens and Edmonds and Seattle. And we got one in Suncadia, and I'm totally forgetting Lakewood. And so then that takes me to March 12th, 2020. So I spoke that morning, and that very day, we got word that we were an official 501c3. So that afternoon, we got the letter, and it was Nancy Cahill who had done the work for us to get us to be, totally official, and had this incredible board. Someone told me, Katie, you'll be lucky if you get 5 or 7 ladies to join the board. And I asked 12, and they all said yes. And I feel like it's the A team. It's like so amazing who's on our board. And it's like I pinch myself. I'm like, Lord, how could this be? But I got to say, since I told you, and I feel like kind of crying, but when I was 12, I held my Bible. I asked the Lord, I seek him daily on everything, on every step. And, I hold on to a verse. It's Psalm 9:10. He will not forsake those who seek him. I am the seeker. He asks us to seek him first. And that is, what I want to do. And so I feel like is so in this anchor, every step, it kind of blows my mind. So from last year, we had no idea a pandemic was happening. And we just had decided to launch our website and do a blog. Now, just so you know me, I never thought I was a speaker. I've never been the blogger, writer person. I'm usually the behind the scenes girl, kind of. So that's why I was like, what am I doing? I started writing a blog every week. So every Tuesday, but we had no idea a pandemic was happening. So the end of April, we launched our blog and website. And then I had this idea, if we can't meet together, which, backing up, the Anchor, if you're wondering, what is the Anchor? It's a gathering for women of all ages and backgrounds to be encouraged and anchored in faith and friendship. And we started it with a happy half hour, fun times, some wine and, appetizers. And then we have an anchor moment. Someone shares a little testimony, how Jesus has been their anchor. And then we have a message. So that's what we do in person. I was crushed when the pandemic hit. We had just had 130 ladies in Medina in the St. Thomas community, or in the school. If you really, I wrap your head around that we had 130 ladies in Medina who were searching to know more. They wanted the community and to hear about Jesus. We didn't have enough chairs. We were on the floor on mats. It was one of those, I was so excited. And then the pandemic. It's like, you got to be kidding. Lord, what are you doing? And so that's when we decided this whole virtual thing. We called it the Anchor at Home. And I was really touched by the little passage in Mary and Martha. It's Luke 10:38 through 42. very short, but a word stuck out bigger than life. It said, Mary and Martha invited Jesus into their home. If you get a chance, go back and look at it. It said they invited him into their home. And I thought, that's it. It's the home is where it's at right now. The sisters were together, just have your small COVID group. And we've created these watch parties, and we're going to bring Jesus into your home, and you can hear firsthand how someone's seen Jesus for real. And that's my whole thing about women. We are big influencers. If you get the hope to a woman, I can guarantee their families are affected, their children, their community, their friendships. When you know Jesus, I mean, it's for all of us, not just women, but it's a trickle effect. So as the women come into their homes, and we've been providing these anchor at homes, that's kind of our plan of action right now during this COVID time. We've had one the first Thursday of the month, and we just got our statistics. This is mind-boggling. We are in 45 states. We only have 5 states that the anchor has not been viewed. We have over 3,500 views on our YouTube for all of our anchors. And we have 5,200 views just overall on the blog and, on the website, all of our views. When a year ago, we were just doing these anchors here and there. Now we've got this, it is actually going to the different states. And that's been our dream and goal. We want to reach 1 million women everywhere. Every woman has the right to hear about Jesus. Every woman, every background. And it's just kind of this one step at a time. And just another cool fact is we thought, we don't have any fundraising or anything. We hadn't done really anything. We've done couple little fundraisers. We sold some pillows and topiaries or whatever. But I can't believe, we thought, well, what if we could get a grant? Well, at the Seattle Anchor, I go there to speak at it, the first one, and this lady comes up to me and she introduces herself and she says she's a retired grant writer. And so I tucked that in the back of my mind. And then last year we met and she worked on it. We put a whole proposal to the Murdoch Trust. And I'll make the long story short, we got a $20,000 grant, a capacity building grant, to help us get our core and infrastructure strong. And we have a consultant for a year that I get executive director coaching. I mean, a lot has happened in a year. So we have Bob Lonack. Does anyone know Bob Lonack? And he gets it. He's has a Young Life background, and that's kind of been our vision, this kind of, non-threatening outreach to women. But I have to say, the anchor is for everyone, no matter where you are on the journey. You could bring a non-believer, like we know of people. We know of friends who are having watch parties and inviting the neighbor who does not have any kind of faith. But then I'm encouraged, and I've been walking with the Lord a long time. So it's kind of one of those, it's a ministry it's for everyone. And I know the men are watching it too. So I know, what? I think it's for all of us, really. So every month, I feel like it's kind of funny, but I feel like I've become an anchor woman, like a TV news broadcaster, because I have like a little studio in my house now, and we have our people come in, and our good friend, our video guy, videos us. And if you got a chance to watch just last week, we had Susan Hutchison, and we have already 500 views on that one. That's a lot for us in 1 week. So we're just spreading the word, sharing the link, and we just are dreaming really, really big, that one step at a time to take the anchor, take the hope of Jesus to women everywhere, which really affects all of us. So I'm sure I'm leaving something out, but I wanted to share where it came from, the anchor, and hopefully where it's going. It's very exciting. So thank you for listening. Any questions?
Katie, thanks for sharing. That's awesome. Before we get into questions, tell people who's going to be your next speaker is also a first, I believe.
Oh, well, we are really changing it up next time. We are going to be filmed on our friends. It's Bart Brinstead, if anyone knows that name. They bought a 1930 ferry boat. Well, it's like a steamboat. And it's down, it doesn't move. They had a tugboat move it in. Oh, that makes me think of my story I have to tell. And they brought it in, but it's going to be filmed on that. And we're actually having a man speak, Rick Enlow. If you haven't heard Rick Enlow, he is the best. And we have Rosa. I don't think she shared for the anchor or for the fellowship yet, or has she, Adele? I don't know, but we got Rosa, and then we might have Amy Grant. We've been getting all these amazing. We got Stephen Curtis Chapman and Brandon Heath, Natalie Grant, JJ Heller. Like, we're just dreaming big. We're just asking whoever. So God has just been totally blessing us there. I forgot to share my anchor tugboat story. You have to hear it because it is the confirmation story. So when I started the anchor, I told you all I never thought of myself as a speaker, but I had to do the first talk. And so I came up with this. It came to me so vivid. I got 5 anchor moments of my life. I was just going to share my 5 anchor moments. Everybody has one. Like, it'd be fun to hear each one of you. You've all got anchor moments, those times where you know Jesus was so real. So I started preparing for it, and I'm a runner. I've been running forever. And I have this straightaway out of my old run it for 25 years now. But it was, this was 9 years ago. I was running on the straightaway, and I was talking my talk out like I always do. And I prayed under my breath, Lord, will you just show me something, or, give me a confirmation with this anchor, or an object lesson. I love objects, probably back from my children's ministry days. And so all of a sudden I look up, and 100 yards in front of me, never seen it before, is this giant anchor chained around a fir tree. And it is huge. I don't know if this does it justice, but I've never seen it. My husband was so skeptical. He's like, oh yeah, you've seen that. You've seen that before. I'm like, never. It blends into the tree. So here I prayed right at the moment. I've had these couple prayers that are answered right on the spot. And that anchor, I see it every week. I run by this anchor, my eyes zero in on it, and I am blown away that, well, for one, I asked a local walker, does he know anything about this anchor? And it turned out it was his son, a tugboat captain, who had decided to stick an anchor in the, out in the middle of nowhere around a tree. It's just a weird story. But for me, this anchor speaks loud and clear. So I just keep on with the anchor. But I'm glad I remembered that, thanks to the tugboat. Okay, any other questions?
Katie, I just want to say, I know and love you. I've heard your story a number of times, but I never get tired of hearing. And you just shared it so beautifully. And
thank you.
I had the privilege of working with you for 3 years on the anchor. And I've just been absolutely thrilled and blown away at what the Lord's done in the last year. I've been attending the at-home anchors, and they're so well done, and the website's so well done. And I've just been praying with you, for you, with how it's growing, and I'm so excited about it. It's just
thank you so much, Karen.
Wonderful. So love you.
Thank you. You've definitely seen it since you were right in there. Well, thanks. You're so great at inviting everyone in too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just thrilled.
Katie, I remember the first time you shared at the fellowship, and I was so moved. I was in tears, and just exactly like what Karen said, I heard your story then, and I'm hearing it again today, and again, I'm just so deeply moved. And the first day that I heard you back in March, I went home and I talked to my wife, and I said, honey, and we were in the process of moving, and I mean, we had a huge anchor moment in the midst of moving in a pandemic, and she got so excited about the possibility of doing this, and we shared out the Susan Hutchinson's talk this last week, and had so many of her friends tune in, and God has already built her anchor group, even though that we've never met, or they've never had the opportunity to do that. And so it's just exciting to see what God is doing. And thank you for coming again. And just I know it's a deep and painful story for you to share, but it just brings so much glory to God. Thank you for being willing for God to use you this way.
Well, thank you. I have to say that the song that was last week on the anchor is I felt like God so smile. I felt like my daughter was smiling on us. That is her favorite song that she held on to back and forth to the hospital, all these treatments and everything. And that song by J.J. Heller, it's called Your Hands. And the words are just spectacular words. And that I happened to meet somebody at Malibu at this couples weekend thing we used to do. I remembered that she said she knew J.J. Heller. And I just reached out to her like a month ago and said, hey, any chance you could get this J.J. Heller to sing a song? And I still am blown away. She told me at the last second, you know how God's timing sometimes is. He's got you on the edge, holding on, like, Lord, who's going to be the musician? And then all of a sudden, she said it right the day before I needed to introduce it on the video. And that she sang that song, I felt like Karina was in the room. It was, I mean, I feel like tearing up a little thinking about it. When you think of those details, God is so loving he wants to love on all of us in those really special ways. He wants our eyes to be open to see that when we start asking him, I just can't believe what happens. So I'm like, Lord, how can we top that one? That was crazy. Every month I'm like, who's going to speak this time? It's always, God's got the plan.
Katie, this is Wes. What a wonderful morning to see you. Having been through so many of the chapters of your life, what a joy to see what God's been doing. This is amazing. I think of Andrew Young was a speaker with us here several years ago at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast, and he was talking about coincidences. It seems like there's a lot of what we would sometimes call coincidences. He says, I've always thought that coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. You didn't have to say anything, you just know that was God.
Yeah.
So you have these incredible coincidences, which are really God incidences. Another friend of mine calls them God incidences, but thank you for sharing this. It's been really a powerful time in my own life right at the moment. And I was thinking of Jan Carlson. I don't know if you know that she was at some of those meetings down in Forest Home where Henrietta Mears. Have you talked to her about that?
Oh yeah, she and I, we bonded over Dream Big. Meeting Jan Carlson. Well, and they're the ones that got us into boating. She and her husband.
Oh, that's right.
They're the ones that loaned us their sailboat. Talk about the coincidences. No?
I know. Well, gee, so great to see you, and give my love to Ron. I hope when this COVID thing settle down, we could get some time together.
Be really great to be together.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, I'm glad you were the person that was here this morning. This is really special. Thanks again.
I got to say, I was thinking, I've already shared, but some of you weren't there. There weren't very many back in those beginning COVID days.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, Katie, I was there and it was a wonderful sharing, and this really complemented that. Susan Hutchison is a great member of our community. I think I understood, is it correct that her college roommate after college was advised to have an abortion and she said no? And Tim Tebow is here today because of that.
Right.
Yeah, so there's some incredible stuff that's been going on in our community. There's no question that this is spreading in a incredibly positive, contagious pattern, even amidst this time where we have another contagious situation going on. So keep it up, ma'am. Keep it up. Oh, you're a photographer too. You had a good photographer friend in Gig Harbor. How's she doing?
Oh, the Suzanne Lane, the one that I haven't. She's a counselor, like a marriage therapy counselor. I haven't seen her in a little while.
Oh no, the one who was the executive assistant to the thing in Seattle. Was that another photographer?
I'm not thinking of who that is.
Okay, I'll get
Adele,
back to
does
you.
that sound familiar?
Yeah,
Oh, she's
you're
here. Yeah.
talking about Stephanie.
Stephanie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she works for Debbie Maycumber.
Katie, this is Dan. I just want to thank you for joining us again this morning. it's always great to hear, even if it's the same story, if it's a good story, we never get tired of it. So thank you. And I'm struck by the doctor's question to you: is Jesus enough? And that's my takeaway today. For those of us who are driven by careers and whatever it is that drives us, whether it be careers or fame or fortune or whatever, that question, is Jesus enough, is a question that I think for me especially I needed to hear this morning. So thank you.
I'm glad that, yeah, I still, when I look back and I go, he didn't ask my husband that in the corner. I don't know why it was me. But man, that question, it's a big one.
Mm.
I looked up the word abundant, just anyone who's, I'm a word person. You know, Jesus comes to bring us abundant life. Abundant means more than enough.
Mm.
Yeah, Katie, thank you so much for sharing. I was really moved again to hear how you took your most profound pain and leveraged it on behalf of others. And the thing that I realized this time around in your sharing that didn't dawn on me before is that I think you're an example of when we do that, rather than stay defeated, which is understandable, is when we do that, God shows up in miraculous ways to help further that into the lives in his purpose. So thank you for being such an inspiring example. And by the way, at some point, some guys might want to crash your anchor meeting.
Oh no, you should. For sure, this next one with Rick Enlow, please get on board. Literally, get on board. I thought that we should have, maybe in May, we'll have one that, invite all the guys, but I think we could just make a really good one. I don't know.
So when is it?
It's always the first Thursday of the month. So the next one's February 4th.
Good.
And it's on, well, you can go to our website, but it's on YouTube. Just The Anchor at Home. It'll come up.
Mm-hmm.
And we always list the speakers now. We are learning a lot. Just so you all know, we are learning a lot. I still am blown away that we have this graph with a map that nobody's watched it in South Dakota or Nebraska, Maine, New Hampshire, or Louisiana. So if you know anybody, we need you to send the link to them, because see, the hope is that the Anchor could be in all these, states. It's really easy to host a watch party in your home. And that's what works right now. We're not sure what the future holds. Like, if we might have these big gatherings, but I think it'll be a hybrid. We'll have some of each, because it's really easy to be able to, provide that anchor. You could just invite a bunch of people into your home and watch it together and have happy hour. And it's really easy to do. So
What are the 5 states?
Anybody in those states, please send it over.
What are the 5 states again?
South Dakota, Nebraska, Maine, New Hampshire, and I think it was Louisiana, which really surprises me, because one of our speakers, if anyone knows Kelly Schneider, she's from Louisiana. So she must not have sent it to her mom or her sister. I don't know.
Someone in South Dakota would be great.
Yeah, if you know anyone, we have Washington's our biggest, and then California has a lot. It's really interesting to look at. Then there's like 5 in Georgia, and there's like 10 in Annapolis, or Maryland. It's pretty cool.
Could you send me your contact information, Katie? I think
Yeah.
you've moved, because I got your Christmas card back.
Oh yeah, we did move a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so if you have my information, just send it to me, would you?
Well, does Ron have your current information? He probably does.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. If he, I'll go to Karen if he doesn't.
Thank you.
Katie, go ahead, Adele.
No, Elle, you go. I'm going to just say something at the end.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to, again, echo what everyone else is saying. Katie, thank you for sharing your pain and your joy with us, because it is so heartening, and it is so easy to see Jesus through it. And I love the concept of the anchor. I completely agree that we all have these anchor moments, and using them to stay tethered in the midst of the storm is just so beautiful. And I can attest to how easy it is to host. I just hosted my first gathering last week, and it was delightful. It was such an easy way to gather with other women. We're being pretty cautious on Bainbridge, so we just did it virtually, but it was so fun. It was so easy, and we watched it together and then had a wonderful conversation afterwards. And it was really meaningful. It was a beautiful evening, and even one of my attendees won the raffle, which was super cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. I sent it to Bainbridge.
Yeah.
I sent it over there.
And I just want to thank you for having such artistic integrity. It's so wonderful to be able to invite people to something that is put together so beautifully, from just the visuals and the music, everything. It's something that you can feel very proud and very comfortable inviting people from outside the community of faith to, and know that you're going to feel proud of what is presented. And that takes an incredible amount of work and forethought. And I love that you see the details as being so important. So thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I have to say something. Our web designer, that's another God story, in that she had a paper company called Anchored Paper Company. And I'd known about her because I like her style. Long story short, she came to me wanting to help us in any way. And so she took our web, she's like a computer whiz. She has a computer degree and graphic art degree from the UW. And so if you ever go to our website, theanchorgathering.com, she really took it to the next level. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And then we have this watch party kit. Sometimes I think people forget that that's there. We have discussion questions for you from the speaker. We have appetizers, drinks to make. We have, fun ideas. If you host a party, we send you some stir sticks. We've got all sorts of surprises for you.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I wanted to say is I'm just finding so many opportunities to share and interact with people who are not currently of faith. Like, this is, as we all know, this is such a time of questioning and wondering among people. And it's so often people who probably aren't ready to make that leap to go to church or to go to a Bible study. And this is just the it's the perfect nugget to invite people in to a deeper discussion, to a time of fellowship. And I love this idea, and I'm so excited to watch it grow.
Oh, you are. So thanks for those encouraging words. And that's another dream of ours. That's part of one of our objectives is then providing Bible study. We've done that before, pre-COVID, and I've hosted several. I actually wrote, I forgot to say, I heard a promotion into my book I wrote, Anchored. It's the story, this whole story. And then I've written these Bible studies that are really simple. They're like, it's like a devotional kind of sort of. But so I've offered those, and we want to do that more. So if somebody does want to go deeper, and I've had gals come that have never been in a Bible study, and they're like, wow, this is a Bible study? Like, they thought it was like fun. So that I think people have the wrong idea, the Bible. So that's one of our, we've got so much ahead of us. We just one step at a time. That's what I have to tell myself, because it really does get overwhelming a lot.
I think this is a great place to jump in, because I serve on the board with Katie, and consider Katie one of my dearest friends. And I am continually blessed by who she is and what she does and the faith she has. She gives this ministry to Christ, and he delivers over and over again. And this grant from Murdoch is a big deal, because if we can build capacity, they will come alongside and really help us. I know once you get in their wheelhouse. And so there is a deep desire to raise the funds to show them, hey, people do believe in this. They believe that they'll put seed money in this because it's small right now, but it can grow big. They believe in it growing big. And you guys know her now. Please share this. We want to not only reach more women, but we want to bring in funds to build this out. We have to get some capacity. Like, Katie does not have an administrative assistant to help her. She is a one-person show. And until 2021, she's not received one penny for the work she's done. In fact, she's poured thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into it. And so just from kind of this, Kate, we're all business people. We all have opportunities. Kate, that I believe that God has every intention to make this very, very big because of Katie's faithfulness and just us coming alongside. So I just wanted to add that little element, which I wouldn't normally do here, but because you know Katie and because I serve on the board and because I really think God is doing something, I wanted to invite you into that opportunity to just be seed planters in a startup ministry. So.
Thank you, Adele.
Katie, I just found your book on Amazon, but what's the best way to get your book so that you actually receive more than 50 cents?
Oh gosh, that's a really good thing. Let me send it to you, okay? Text me your address and I'll send it.
Okay, thank you.
It costs $15.
All right. And I come from a nonprofit fundraising background most of my professional career, so I'm excited to have more conversations with you too, because I just sense, God's synergy of his perfect timing. And I see Doug Taylor on there, so I'm probably gonna pull him in. So
hey, I've learned a lot already from my wonderful consultant, Bob Lonick. I've done how many asks now? 5. It's pretty amazing. God is so good. Cannot believe
Bob is about the best you can learn from. So that's great.
It's amazing. My husband's the development guy. Okay, everybody, my husband is amazing. And it can make me tear up that I'm partnered with him. Poor Ron, he kind of help leads the anchor, really, if you want to know the truth. He gives me a lot of just advice and encouragement, and he'll go, this is okay, or he's really good. He's kind of done, he's done that in Young Life. He's done a lot, so it's really helped me a lot.
There's that saying, behind every great woman, right?
There's a man.
Katie,
I don't know if it's a saying, but it is now.
Katie, I have to
hear all of our conversations, but usually he's pretty good with me. Yes.
I want to show you. I know you love rainbows. It wasn't a rainbow this morning, but while you were talking, the sunrise over Mount Rainier was very colorful, and I just wanted to show you that because I know how much rainbows mean to you.
No, here I am. Oh yeah, I'm looking outside. There's the mountain now. I haven't even looked out there.
Yeah, well, the color was just, you can't capture it in a picture, but it almost looked like a rainbow over the mountain. It was the colors. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Katie, there's that question, what floats your boat? And that actually ties in with the anchor, because once the boat's floating, you've got to hold on to it. How is your boat?
You mean the Queen of Jean boat, that boat?
Yeah, your sailboat. You still have a boat, don't you?
Well, we have our boat. We actually, I didn't add that in the story, but it is part of the story. But there's too much of the story, really. I want to do some of the highlights, but
we'll tune in for that later.
Yeah, but we did sell Epiphany, and we bought this bigger boat because I didn't share about how we started after we lived on Hunts Point. I had a heart for these people with everything in the world, but they don't have Jesus, all the wealth on that road. So we started a couples weekend at Malibu, where you could fly in or boat in, and we used our boat Epiphany, as the happy hour boat, and just to bring people in. Well, it was getting too small. So I was like, let's get a little bigger boat, and so we can really pack it out. Well, a bigger boat is just kind of bigger problems sometimes. It's a lot of work and a lot of money. So we had the Queen of Jean. We got this beautiful boat. It's down in Lake Union. You might see it down there in front of Daniel's right now, but it pretty much, I think, is sold at the end of this month. I'm actually going there tonight to take off some things. So, but it's been a really beautiful, wonderful, we've used it for so many things. I kept a journal. I felt like I was made for this. I love hosting and doing everything, but it's just, that was a chapter, and moving on to the next. We don't know what boat we'll get next. I don't know, but we love the Queen of Jean, but that chapter will be done.
Yeah, but not a stink pot.
No, maybe we'll go back to sailing. I don't know. You guys, having a 114-foot boat, it is a lot, and it's a lot. And it's an older boat, and there's things always going wrong. It is a lot. So
there you go.
I just want to, this is Grant and Christy. I just want to affirm your generosity, because I know you might not say it yourself, Katie, but I remember being with some friends, and we know each other because I worked with your son-in-law Gray, and went to college with Annika, but we were on Roach Harbor with some friends and ran into you at the grocery store, and you're like, oh, just come on the Karina Jean and we'll watch the fireworks. It was 4th of July and it was just like so fun. I mean, it's like, and I know this is probably true for so many people, but I feel like whenever I see you or run into you, there's just like joy and gospel invitation and hospitality, and you just have such a wonderful spirit, your whole family. And yeah, just really grateful for you and the influence you've had on so many people and young people, and your heart for young people is just awesome. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sometimes I don't even know who's on the boat sometimes. We've had a lot of people come on there. But I've always felt like, gosh, I always wanted to go on someone's boat. Everyone needs to be able to come on this boat. That was our dream and prayer, that that would somehow you'd be touched by the Lord. So
awesome.
So great. Thanks for sharing that.
Hey, Katie, I couldn't find my the hat my son gave me by the new Seattle hockey team, which
I was picturing you this morning when you were supposed to wear your anchor hat.
has an anchor on it. And I have a collection of baseball hats. That's 2 hats. I couldn't find that one, but this is the other one.
Oh, there you go. We need the Navy too. Well, you know what's weird is we have a Navy connection because our webmaster, her dad was the submarine captain in the Navy. And then the guy that did our trademarking for our logo, he was in the Navy. Let's see. I mean, it's weird. There's like a voting connection in a lot of things we do for the anchor.
Yeah. I got married in the Naval Academy Chapel because I grew up there. My dad taught there for 30 years. And there's a big, there's some anchors inside that chapel, which is like a cathedral too, and prayers for people at sea.
No, see, I want to go. I've told you, I want to go there so bad. That is one place that, well, now if you tell me if there's a chapel with anchors in it, I'm for sure going to be there.
Are these still for sale, Katie? Or do you
we only had, that story's crazy how we got those pillows. That was Adele's mom. Is Adele still on? That was so crazy. Adele those were from the Cedar Cove series that her mom, Debbie Maycumber, wrote. They had all this Hallmark merchandise, and Adele decided to purchase it really cheap because they were going to give it to Home Goods and those kind of stores. And she had no purpose in buying it all, like a ton of wine glasses with anchors on it, pillows like that with the anchor on it, anchor mugs. And so we sold it. That was our first fundraiser. We made $3,000 and we were able to make our first video. So, always something good.
By the way, too, Bob Lonick is in our wider community, and he commented or liked that on our Facebook, the announcement you would be here.
Well, he told me he was going to come, but it was his C3 group. I told him he should invite the whole C3 group, but he didn't.
Yeah, well, we're working on, Dan Eds has something that'll be his job this next year, doing some activities with the C3, as well as we want to keep partnering with you here too. I think there's a lot of synergy.
Well, yeah, thanks for inviting me back on. I was a little skeptical at first, but I'm glad that we could share just what's happened in this year. Truly is amazing, where it's like a new trajectory through the pandemic. God has his, I mean, like I said, that, it's not our plan, but his purpose is so big. And then again, I wanted to share this, my favorite verse. It's so simple. I love simple verses, but devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. And that, I mean, I know the fellowship's all about praying, and devote means give a large part of your time. Praying, that is my life. Just the Lord is in, just talking to him all the time, and be on the watch. I mean, I love looking up words. It means be eagle-eyed, keen on the details. He is working in the details. I feel like people's eyes, we need to help them be open. A lot of people don't see. And so be watchful and then be thankful. That's huge.
Absolutely.
I preached a sermon on that passage a few months ago, and I coined a little, forgive the little Asian thing, but my saying for it was pray attention. You pray being watchful and thankful. And as we pray, we need to watch. And so we pray attention so that we're aware of what God's doing and seeing his hand moving.
I would just
Eric, I had to laugh out loud at that.
Really, prayer is like an anchor. It anchors you to the real source. Just a It's interesting. Every Thursday we have a prayer time downtown on the street at 4th and Pine. I've been doing this for about 3.5 months, praying for the city, praying for the peace of the city, praying for the welfare of our citizens. So any of you would like to join us at 4th and Pine right there in Westlake, it's kind of like a little open area there. It's just praying for the city. I mean, there's no other hope for this city other than God's people coming together to agree that peace, the Prince of Peace, needs to come in this city, or remain a shell of what it was.
Right.
Well, we want to place the anchor we're right in the heart of the city there, from 12 to 1 on Thursdays. So come if you can.
Wes, that popped up a week or two ago. We had one of our wider friends watching the Facebook post, wasn't on here, but announced that he was going there and invited all of us to come. And we had this sort of back and forth, and we were glad to see that.
Great.
Mr. Beasley, I think that's how you say his name.
Well, I wish I lived closer. I'd really, wait, what time is it at? Thursdays at what time?
12 to 1.
12 to 1. Yeah, 'cause I don't know, some of you already probably know this, but the anchor, I've done some research on it. It was the first symbol for a follower of Jesus, not a fish or not a cross. It was an anchor. And at University Lutheran Church in the alley, if some of you live in the U District, I mean, I went to that church. I'm still I'm on a picture in there. I was baptized there and married there, but there is embedded in the cement. There's anchors above the doors. Wes, you live over there. Have you seen those?
I live 1 block from there. I'll go look today.
Yeah. So I seriously, I thought, wow, there's something more to this anchor. We never learned that in Sunday school, but I think
Send us a picture.
more catchy sometimes than there's a cross in there. So
Good. Wow.
I feel the need to close up officially, and we can keep the room open. We often end in prayer as we begin in prayer. And Katie, maybe there's something we always ask this too, in your personal world we can pray for, and then someone or two can end us out. And before I do that too, I want to announce we do have a table. It's a virtual table at next Monday's Martin Luther King prayer breakfast. A couple folks on the call were on that committee chairing that and getting it ready, and they're going to have an amazing morning for us. So I believe, Kurt, you're on here. You correct me if I'm wrong. We do have seats left in our virtual table. If you're on our email list, you've gotten emails showing you how to get on that. And it means it's less expensive because we brought a bulk of seats, and would love to have you guys join us.
Cost is $10. And if I can just ask Kurt, will we get information emailed to us about how to log on and everything?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact timing, but somewhere about 3 days before, we're going to get instructions from the hosts, and we will forward that out as well. But it appears to me that it'll be some type of Zoom link to us, and then we share what they're giving us. So if you're registered, then you're on the list to get the instruction email whenever it comes out. And I'm sorry, I don't have the exact detail yet implanted in my mind.
Thank you.
And if you're not on our email or getting our emails, some of you folks from Senate or whoever else, send us your email and ask to get on. We'd love to be sending you our weekly announcements.
You can text any of us who are on the board if you know us. I know several of you. So if you're not on the list, just let us know and we'll get it over. Jim Humphreys is the person who coordinates that. So we'll be sure to link you in with Jim.
You could put me back on. Somehow I got dropped from the list, so put me back on. I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we'll get you on there, Wes.
And then Adele, could you stay on for a few minutes afterwards? Yeah, thanks.
All right, Katie, how can we pray for you?
Well, just keep the prayers to just guidance and leadership for the anchor and where that's going, and protection around it too. And that's my biggest, I just kind of think about the anchor a lot.
All right, amen. Someone sounds like a sailor. She needs guidance and protection.
There you go. And wind for the sails.
So Heavenly Father, we do come and we lift up the anchor gathering ministry. We lift up all that are involved. We lift up those states where the anchor hasn't quite been